Normally, I would not abandon a Quakes game, let alone an MLS game. But because of the fact that with 20 minutes left in that LAFC versus San Jose Earthquakes game, where the Quakes are down 4-0 in that game against LAFC, and that unless if they do probably the greatest comeback we'll ever see in MLS history, there is no chance the Quakes are going to win that game, and that since it's already 9:40 right now, and that game between the Quakes versus LAFC decided to not push back to 8 o'clock, I would have actually done the review right now, and that game would have actually finished right now. Now, that game, of course, I will not be talking about that one in this video, as I said back in the preview a couple of days ago, that I'm going to once again split the review into two parts, because if I decided to do the review of all 12 of these games, yeah, I'm going to be up till midnight to kind of do all these 12 games if I, of course, decide to do that. And also, if you expect me to do a little rant about that game of how the Quakes are getting absolutely annihilated by LAFC, then I'm sorry to say that is not what's going to happen, because I knew the Quakes were going to get destroyed in that one. Like, I really didn't give the Quakes a lot of chance, knowing the fact that even though I know LAFC has struggled in the past couple of games, the Quakes' defense, with the way that how they defended against the Galaxy, and quite frankly, how they defended for this past season, it is probably going to be pretty easy for LAFC to just completely expose them. And that knowing the fact that since LAFC had a couple of bad results, they're going to take that anger out on the Quakes' defense, and I expect this one is going to be a thrashing, which it is exactly that way, and I won't be surprised if that is going to be the last goal that LAFC scored before the end of tonight. But that being said, let us actually get into the first game, which is the Canadian Classique. And although this game also ended 1-0, but this time in favor of the Montreal Impact, just like the same score line on Friday Canadian Classique, that was a 1-0 win for TFC. This game was the complete opposite in terms of entertainment value. And where the Friday game was a lackluster kind of game, and a game that you definitely want to forget that was actually the Canadian Classique, this game was pretty much the definition of a Canadian Classique, and that we also saw something that not only I rarely see this happen, but I don't think I've ever seen this happen before in MLS history. Now, in the first half, just 2 minutes into this game, TFC almost got the first goal from Alejandro Pozuelo on the free kick, but Clement Diop was able to save that. And Diop, what a performance this was. And what a performance this was for the Impact defense, where I feel like if it wasn't for this defense being so compacted and so organized in this game, and that Diop really stood on his head a couple of times in this one, Montreal would not walk out with all 3 points and hand TFC their first loss in the regular season since August of last year. Now, in the 14 minutes, Rudy Camacho would be scoring the only goal of this game from Romeo Kyoto from the corner, and I thought this goal was completely against the run of plays, because TFC were all over Montreal up until that point. But Montreal gets a 1-0 lead. Toronto once again put all the pressure, but again, Diop is really the only reason that this was a 1-0 lead for Montreal, as he basically robbed a couple of TFC attacker, specifically Josie Altidore, where I think for the first half there was 3 times where Josie Altidore could have scored the tying goal for TFC, but all 3 times Clement Diop was able to come up big and save those chances that Altidore has for a chance to equalize for them. Now, speaking of Josie Altidore, he was brought down in the box by Luis Blinks in the first minute of stoppage time in the first half, and the penalty was given to TFC. Now, I thought this was probably not a penalty, because, well, I did see Binks kind of pull the jersey of Altidore a little bit. It seemed like Altidore actually kind of flopped hard onto the ground, and he kind of really sold that foul in the box to able to win his team a penalty. But either way, the referee says that it was a penalty, and this is where we get to the talking point of this game, and this is where I get to talk about something that I rarely seen happen, and I think I've only seen this happen once, and I think the TSN broadcast even mentioned this moment where, if you remember back in 2014 when Barcelona was taking on Celta Vigo, and that Messi actually tried a very cheeky kind of penalty where instead of him just kind of striking that one into the back of the net from 12 yards out like you always see in a penalty kick taken, he decided to kind of pass it to his teammate Luis Suarez, and basically he hits it into the back of the net. Well, Pozuelo basically decided to did the same thing here to pass it to Piatti, who puts it into the back of the net, and you're thinking, well, that's a 1-1 game, and that is something that I don't think I've ever seen in MLS history, but it worked out at that point, right? Only problem is that goal would actually be disallowed. And the reason why that goal was disallowed and why this goal, unlike what happened a couple of years with what Messi did to Suarez to pull off that play, is because Piatti encroached in this penalty, and that I actually had to find out later, thanks to a couple of people that actually know the rules of soccer very deeply, and also the league decided to do an article of talking about why this goal was disallowed, and that again Piatti basically encroached because he was in the semicircle, and that you are not allowed to be in the semicircle or in the box unless you're a penalty kick taker, or before when the penalty kick taker is able to strike this ball. Now, if Pozuelo was able to strike this ball and it was saved by Diop, but Piatti basically they score on the rebound, then this goal also wouldn't count, but they would actually do a retake. But because of the fact that Pozuelo basically made no intention of striking that one and just kind of passed right to Piatti, yeah, that's why this one is not a retake. And I did hear a lot of people feel like that should have either be a retake or that goal, of course, should have count. And that, I think, in a simpler way, just kind of look at it in a way that Pozuelo was trying to pass it to Piatti, but unfortunately Piatti was in an offside position, and he basically just scored an offside goal. But either way, I mean, as bizarre as that moment is, I don't understand why did TFC decide to try it, and I want to really get in the heads of Pozuelo and Piatti at that moment, because you're down 1-0 at home against your biggest rival. This is not like it's a preseason game, or you're up like 5-0 against your rival where you kind of try this stuff. You're down 1-0 against your rival at home, and you have a chance to score this penalty to tie it up and have the momentum in the second half. And instead of just trying the traditional penalty kick, and that's just striking into the back of the net, I just don't understand why did they decide to do this. And that after the game, Greg Vanney also talked about how this penalty routine was completely unnecessary. Yeah, you damn right it was unnecessary. And in fact, I didn't think people would even try to do the same thing as I would saw in the last 5 years, because not only the fact that this is a very risky play, but it is something that is very hard to pull off of, and that there's just no need to do that kind of play in a way that would eventually cost your team. And by the way, it would cost TFC in this game, because in the second half, while TFC would continue to put all the pressure, Montreal did exactly what they did in the first half, which is bunker and trying to play on the counterattack, and nearly had a couple of chances to potentially get the second goal themselves. But in the end, that of course was the Montreal was able to defend and able to get the 1-0 result. The only thing I left to mention is that in the 95th minute, VAR did overrule a potential red card that was given to Marcel, and actually gave him a yellow instead after he decided to put a slide challenge on Michael Bradley, which I thought that was the right call by VAR, because in that sliding tackle, I didn't think it was very vicious to deem a red card, and that the yellow card was definitely more of the correct decision in that play. But either way, what a bizarre way for TFC to end their bid in terms of of potentially getting a record amount of wins or unbeaten run in the regular season. Like, if you would have thought that this was the way that TFC was going to lose a game, you probably would just laugh and think that I'm just drunk or something. But yeah, this was kind of the way that they did it. And in terms of shots in this game, 20 shots compared to 10 that TFC or Montreal has. 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that Montreal has. 11 shots off target compared to 4 that Montreal has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked. And possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession. And that, in some way, I kind of also feel like not only what they did back in the first half was kind of karma, but it's kind of served them right, the fact that they lost this game. And the failed trickery play that they did in the first half would ultimately lead to them not able to get any points out of this one. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Atlanta and Inter Miami. And for the first time since 2017, Atlanta United were involved with a 0-0 draw. And it's hard to believe that it's been this long since Atlanta has been involved with a 0-0 draw. But at the same time, I kind of feel like it was eventually going to happen, knowing the fact that this was a team that struggled to score, and that if they do come up against a team like Inter Miami that struggled to score also, this most likely is going to end in a 0-0 result. Although, that being said, there were definitely chances for both of these teams to potentially get a goal in this game. And we almost had our first goal just 10 minutes into this game when Kubo Torres was unable to bury a chance where he was open from about 10 yards out, and that he blazed that one over the bar on the volley. It was very disjointed, I thought, for both of these teams in the early on. There wasn't really a lot of chances, but probably one of the bigger chances for Inter Miami came in the 28th minute when Figueroa basically missed a 2-yard sitter when the ball was coming into the box there. And this won't be the last time a Inter Miami defender would miss a very bad sitter like that, because in the second half and 55 minutes into this game, it was Gonzalo Perez's turn to basically miss a sitter goal from about 6 yards out as the ball was coming into the box. And that, even though I thought the game was once again up for grabs and that both teams, if they could just get that one crucial goal, they potentially is going to get all 3 points in this one. They weren't able to do that because it was once again very disjointed. And that, of course, was the last action of this game, as in the end, it ends in a 0-0 draw between both of these teams. Shots in this game, 5 shots compared to 10 that Miami has. 1 shots on goal compared to 3 that Miami has. 2 shots off target compared to 5 that Miami has. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession. And that, I know both of these fan bases are not going to be happy with this result. I mean, I guess maybe Inter Miami, they might not be the more happier side because, you know, those big chances that they had in the second half and in the first half with Figueroa and Gonzalo Perez is going to really haunt them. But for Atlanta, they're probably not going to be happy because, once again, this is kind of the performance we've seen all season long with this team. And it's hard to believe these Atlanta United fans have now see a team that used to play just some free-flowing soccer and just kind of high-octane kind of way to now be a team that is just completely unrecognizable. But that being said, I also kind of mentioned how Atlanta is kind of in this transitional period, and it's clear that now that today they announced that they are going to be selling Pity Martinez and are going to get that $18 million, which I think in the news of the week I mentioned they were going to get the full $18 million. That actually is not true because when Atlanta bought Pity Martinez from River Plate not only asked Atlanta to pay a hefty transfer fee, but also asked them to accept the fact that if they decide to sell him to another club, we are going to get some sell on fee and get some money off of that transfer. But either way, hopefully Atlanta would use that money wisely to invest on the attack. That attack is just a shadow of its own self, and that clearly they need to find somebody not only just going for in terms of trying to replace Joseph Martinez for this season, but also find a number 10 or find a guy like kind of like a Miguel Almiron kind of of a player that will once again play that fun soccer that this Atlanta team known to play for the first 2 seasons. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is another 0-0 draw, and this is the third 0-0 draw in a row at home for FC Cincinnati, and this time they of course were able to get a 0-0 draw against the Chicago Fire, and just like this one, there could have been a goal in this one between FC Cincinnati and the Chicago Fire. Now, 2 minutes into the game, we probably could have saw the opening goal of this game if it wasn't for Shuttleworth able to rob Vandervoort from close range. And, you know, Bobby Shuttleworth, the former Minnesota United goalkeeper, I thought he had a decent game in that one. And although that was definitely a great save by him, Vandervoort clearly should have put that one away. Like, you are literally wide open from close range. You got to at least... I mean, he did, of course, at least try to challenge the goalkeeper to save that. But in many ways, you clearly should have buried that if you're that close range from the area. Now, I thought for the first 10 minutes, there was a lot of possession for FC Cincinnati, which was kind of surprising because that's not what FC Cincinnati is all about, and you rarely see them kind of control the game and had a boatload of possession in the game. But ultimately, things kind of did even out as the Fire started to have a little bit more possession and kind of controlled the game. But their goalkeeper, Bobby Shuttleworth, had to deny Ricketton in the 28th minute as we head to halftime at 0-0 between both of these teams. Now, in the second half, 55 minutes into this game, Shuttleworth was able to rob Lacadia, who, Lacadia clearly is struggling to find a goal, and that this is, once again, another example of a striker in this league where he just cannot buy a goal right now, and he just had no confidence whatsoever, and that I'm pretty sure FC Cincinnati are very concerned. The fact that Lacadia is struggling just as much as he has been for the past couple of games, and that even though there is a chance where, you know, FC Cincinnati, they could eventually just loan him back to England, they hope they don't have to do that, and that hope that Lacadia eventually he will kind of break out of that rust and actually start to score goals for this FC Cincinnati team. Now, in the 65th minute, Aliseda hits wide off the target from 10 yards out, but then in the 70th minute, it looked like he scored the opening goal of this game, but unfortunately, it was disallowed, and the reason why it was disallowed was on the development of this play. Sikulic unfortunately handballed this one, and you can clearly see he handballed this one before a couple of passes later, it will find Aliseda who scores this one. So the game remains 0-0 in this one, and that would be the way that it ends. As for the third home game in a row, FC Cincinnati drew 0-0 against their opponent. Shots in this game, 8 shots compared to 13 that Chicago has. 3 shots on goal compared to 1 that Chicago has. 4 shots off target compared to 8 that Chicago has. 1 shot that was blocked compared to 4 that Chicago has. And possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession. And that, I guess if you're an FC Cincinnati fans, as much as you are seeing your team getting 0-0 draw and at least getting points in these games, it also has to be very infuriating to see your team always getting these boring 0-0 draw, and that you can definitely see there are some potential for them to potentially score goals in a game, but they just look very poor in terms of their final product, and at times they just doesn't look very clinical whatsoever. I mean, I saw a couple of times this FC Cincinnati team, if they actually have a true goal scorer and a guy that has the instinct in terms of scoring those goals and be better in terms of that final ball and final touch, this team could have easily got 3 points in this. But because of the fact that they don't have that guy, this is kind of the result that unfortunately FC Cincinnati fans are going to see more often for the rest of the season. And I guess the only good news is at least there's no fans allowed to go to these games, because imagine if you're an FC Cincinnati fans and you watch 3 games in a row that ends in a 0-0 draw at home. That has to be very infuriating. That of course is the soccer that you of course are end up watching. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is a game that looked like it was going to be a 0-0 draw between the Red Bulls versus DC United, and that you know, the Red Bulls, I think even if this game ended in a 0-0 draw, they will be frustrated at the fact that they pretty much dominate for a majority of this game and weren't able to get the 3 points. But I think they're now even more frustrated because DC United in the 98th minute were able to score a winner, and in a goal that I feel like it was very preventable and probably should have been saved by the New York goalkeeper Marat there. But of course, we'll get to that moment and talk about how DC absolutely stole 3 points away from the Red Bulls in this one. Now, in the first half, it was all Red Bulls in the first 12 minutes, and pretty much all Red Bulls throughout the entire part of this game. As DC, they did have a couple of looks on the counterattack, and one of them happened in the 32nd minute, but Mara was able to rob Kamara as DC almost scored against the run and play. He had also had another look in the 51st minute when he went one-on-one with Mara, but Nealis out of nowhere was able to make a great recovery run and basically block that one with a last-ditch slide tackle. But I also thought that the Red Bulls were really knocking on the door, and if it wasn't for Bill Hamid and the fact that the Red Bulls just had no finishing product in this game whatsoever, Red Bulls clearly should have been 1-0 or at least 2-0 in this game. But as we had laid into this game, and it looked like this was once again a stalemate draw, which would be the third 0-0 draw that I think we will be seeing throughout this midweek action. Sogar was able to score Sogar was able to score in the 8th minute of stoppage time, and I wrote Mara should have saved that because, that shot definitely looked like it was hit straight toward Mara, and that he definitely got a hand to it, but unfortunately he wasn't able to parry it out, and it ends into the back of net. And that was the difference in this game, as DC United was able to steal all 3 points in this game, and the stats basically just shows you how they stole 3 points in this one, because the stats showed that the Red Bulls had 17 shots compared to just 5 that DC United has, 4 shots on goal compared to 3 that DC United has, 9 shots off target compared to 1 that DC United has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that DC United has, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession. And that I also know that Red Bulls fans are going to complain the fact that this goal was scored in the 8th minute of stoppage time when originally there was supposed to be just 6 minutes of stoppage time. Well, there's a reason why we always say that there's a minimum of 6 minutes of stoppage time, and that, it's up to the referee when he, of course, decided to call the game off. And there's also an old saying said, you need to play the game until the final whistle is blown. And in this case, they did not exactly do that, or at least the Red Bulls goalkeeper Mara didn't get that memo, because again, that was a very savable shot, and that if Robles was still with the Red Bulls, that would have been an easy save for Luis Robles, and that this game could have ended 0-0 if he was in goal. But yeah, this has got to be a very frustrating result if you are the Red Bulls. And as for DC, they got very lucky in this game. And I think, as much as I know DC fans are going to be happy the fact that their winless run has come to an end, it doesn't really change the fact that they still have a lot of issue with their team, and that this is just kind of one of those resorts where their opponent kind of give them the win, and that if they are going to start turning things around, they need to have a couple of more wins in a row in order to kind of turn around and not just had to rely on their opponent to give them a gift in the 98th minute to able to get themselves all 3 points in a game. Speaking of 1-0 win, the very next match is also a 1-0 win, and this time it was the Columbus Crew getting a 1-0 win against the Union. And I did say in the preview, I feel like this is one of those games where it's not only it's going to be a very interesting kind of game, but I feel like it could also be a low-scoring kind of game, and that one goal could really be the difference in this one. And indeed, that's what happened in this one, as Columbus, of course, were able to score that one goal in the second half to win 1-0 against the Union. Although early in this game and 10 minutes into this game, Eloy Rome was able to deny Bedoya a chance for the Union to get the opening goal, while McKenzie probably could have got the opening goal for the Philadelphia Union. Have not Darlington that be made a heroic goal line clearance to basically keep this one at 0-0 apiece. Now, Andre Blake also had to deny Zadarian late in the first half to potentially keep this at 0-0 heading into the halftime whistle. But as we head into the second half, I thought Columbus really started out strong and was really knocking on the door to potentially get the first goal. And they were rewarded by that in the 55th minute when Zadarian was able to score from Santos and Artur. This one looked like was redirect off of one of the Union defender, but I'm pretty sure Zadarian and the Columbus crew don't care how it happened because it went up into the back of the net, and it could have been 2-0 just 2 minutes later or 12 minutes later when Santos unfortunately put the shot wide. But ultimately the Columbus crew, or actually this was not Pedro Santos, but it was actually Sergio Santos, could have tied the game up for the Union just 12 minutes later when he puts the shot wide. But either way, Columbus was able to hold on to this 1-0 result. And the shots in this game, 12 shots compared to 14 that the Union has. Both teams had 4 shots on goal. 6 shots off target compared to 5 that the Union has. 2 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that the Union has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession as Columbus, with this win, is able to get themselves back atop the Eastern Conference. And for the Union, it's back to the drawing boards for Jim Curtin team, as kind of they would be definitely a little bit disappointed that they weren't able to get 3 points in what was always going to be a very tight game, and a game that, again, I thought if the team that is able to score 1 goal in this game, they would end up to get all 3 points in this one. But finally, moving on into the last game of this first part of the review is Minnesota. So, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking that I am going to be very upset with this result, which I am. Upset the fact that the Loons just completely folded in this game against Houston. But at the same time, I was not surprised. The fact that the Loons kind of just absolutely folded in this game against Houston. And judging by the way that in these last 2 games, the Loons have looked a shadow of themselves, the way that they play in the MLS's back tournament, and also in the first 2 games of the season. And knowing the fact that there are a couple of former Loons players that is definitely want some revenge against their former team, which at least one of them were able to get some revenge by scoring a goal against their former team. I kind of feel like this is going to only have one resort and one resort only, and that is Houston is probably going to win this. Now, in the first half, I thought there was too many turnover in the midfield by the Loons, as Houston just completely controlled the game for the first couple of minutes. Quintero almost gave the Dynamo a 1-0 lead, but unfortunately he just missed wide from the free kick, although this won't be the last time that he has a chance to score a goal against his former team. But in the 26th minute, another former Minnesota player, Christian Ramirez, had a big chance to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead, but the Minnesota goalkeeper Greg was able to rob him after a poor giveaway that we allowed the Dynamo to go on the attack, and that Ramirez almost scored against his former team. But just 1 minute later, Quintero, who, as I said, this won't be the last time that you have a chance to look to score against his former team. Well, this time he took his chances, and he was able to score from Memo Rodriguez to give Houston a 1-0 lead, and that's how we head to halftime with that score. Now, in the second half, Greg would once again rob Ramirez a chance to get the second goal, and I thought Christian Ramirez was very unlucky. The fact that he could have got a goal in this game against his former team if the Loons goalkeeper wasn't able to just kind of robbing him a couple of times. But at that moment, I also thought that this was kind of very discouraging by seeing how, I thought what Adrian Heath said to the guys at halftime would really fire them up, and instead they almost went down 2-0 before the second half have actually even spring into action. And in the 59th minute, Adrian Heath did start to bring in the cavalry. And then it's also important to note that Adrian Heath didn't really decide to start what he thinks is the strongest starting 11. And the reason why I say what he thinks is the strongest 11 is because I don't really think there is a strongest starting 11 for this Minnesota team. And then most of the guys that started in this game were kind of part of the quadruple substitution that Adrian Heath made back in the last game against Dallas, and that since they played well in that game, maybe that's why he decided to put them in this game and see how it works, and it turns out it didn't really make any difference. Just like how when he decided to bring in the cavalry and bring in a couple of guys that started in the last game, they also didn't really make a big impact, and in some way it kind of makes things worse, because in the 65th minute, Ariel Lassiter would score his first ever goal for the Dynamo, as he would score from Elise and Serin. Then he would score again in the 70th minute from Albert Elise, as it seemed like Lassiter and Elise is started to develop a similar relationship to what we saw with Menottes and Elise kind of away. And you know how much I love the Elise and Menottes kind of combination, and that if Lassiter, if he can kind of do exactly the same thing as what Menottes and Elise would do, this will now soon to become kind of one of my favorite combination too. But at that point, it was 3-0 in favor of the Dynamo. And then in the 71st minute, Reynoso actually came off the bench and made his debut with the Loons. And that, you remember how early this afternoon in the news of the week, I talk about how the bad news is that Reynoso probably have to self-isolate for 2 weeks and he won't be available until in the middle of September. Boy, did I not actually pay attention to what Minnesota's talked about Reynoso, because they said that he was actually available in this game, and that I didn't pay attention to the fact that he was actually on the bench. And if he was actually on the bench, then why is he not the first substitution for Adrian Heath? Like, you can clearly see when Reynoso came into this game and the way that he looked in this game, he basically looked exactly what I thought he was going to look. A guy that was going to really help on the attack and was very good on the ball and try his best to distribute good ball to his teammate to potentially have chances of score goals. And if that's the case, why not bring him earlier? Or heck, if you know that Reynoso was going to be fit for this game, why not just start him in this one? So that was kind of very frustrating to see how we wait until when we're down 3-0 to bring in our new signing and hope it to make an impact. And even if he does make an impact, I don't think we were going to come back into this game knowing the fact that, you know, the Dynamo of the new and the Dynamo of the Tab Ramos is not the same as the Dynamo of the old. So yeah, in the end, that was the final score of this game, and I actually didn't put the shot total or the stats for this game, so I'm gonna just quickly actually where is my phone right now? Okay, I don't know where my phone is, but I'm just gonna quickly go online here and tell you guys what is actually the stat number, because I forgot to put it here. Where is it? There it is. Houston versus Minnesota. Stats. Let's take a look. All right, so the stats in this game. The shots total was 21-13 in favor of Houston. 11 shots on target compared to 4 that the Loons had. 6 shots for both of these teams that was off target. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Minnesota has. And possession-wise, let's take a look. 53% possession compared to 47% possession. And yeah, for Minnesota, again, I'm not going to just go on full panic mode and just hit the panic button with this team yet, even though we have now lost 3 in a row. But that being said, this team's got to look better in that next game against RSL. And that game, I think that might be the game where if we do lose that game and look just as bad as we did in this game against Houston, that's when I am definitely going to hit the panic button and start to really be worried that this team is going through the same motion that they did back in 2017 and 18, because the way that they performed in this this game. It looked like what happened in the first 2 years, where not only they don't have goal scoring power going forward. Well, actually, this game was more like the first year where not only the fact that there was no goal scoring threat going forward, but they cannot defend if their life actually depends on it. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 6 games? As I mentioned earlier, tomorrow I am going to do part 2 of this review and look at the next 6 games or look at the last 6 games that happened in this MLS midweek action. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time.